Hey friends, so just real quick, sorry it's been a bit since the last update. I've been bedridden for most of that time with some nerve pain and intestinal pain, both of which were forced onto me by different facets of the justice system. Something that we'll chat on later, and something that is kind of integral as to why this is a life-saving aspect of my life and often for many others. So yeah, in a second here, going to be doing a quick transplant of the different outdoor varieties here. Most of them are ready. Some of them are still looking a little bit young, but I might still give them the transplant just so that they don't get too leggy, kind of like this one is. Leggy meaning a longer stem such that it gets a little bit top heavy. I don't know what I'm going to do with these raspberry burger crossed with pink sherbets. When I do transfer this over from 10 gallons to a set of 3x3 beds, I'll be using the same soil, of course, but it'll of course need to recreate its networks, even though the friends will all be in there. Well, when I do that, I'll be able to transplant these and transplant them kind of deep such that the root systems start maybe like around here, maybe a little bit further up, but we'll see. So yeah, just kind of haven't gotten the love that they need after a transplant that, like we said last time, was not the best. All the culinaries are looking nice. Gonna have to direct sow a couple of them, that's fine. And yeah, everything else in here is looking good. You'll notice that the other cannabis plant here, Aaron's cut of niche, was moved, and I transplanted the basil in here. This was an effort that was with two intentions. First of all, I want to create like a bush of basil in here because that shit's expensive. Second of all, and this is kind of the point of things in this little segment, is I don't know how interested I am in cloning plants and doing the whole cloning and then creating what's known as a mother plant, otherwise like more functionally known as like a plant that you'd keep to then take cuts off of, that then you could use as clones and eventually flower them out, looking for the same phenotypic traits as the plant that the cuts have been taken from, because it is the same plant. I don't know how excited I am to do that, because it's pretty simple. This is Aaron's cut of niche right here. You'll see it had some shock from moving around, and then also from a bit of aggressive training and defoliation. But you'll also notice that it's absolutely covered in flowering sites. It's almost as if it's like begging to be flowered out. And honestly, like I said a moment ago, the concept of not wanting to keep clones or mother plants unless it's absolutely necessary from now on for like the necessity of sustenance and well-being, is simply that I'm uninterested in forcing things to live. If I were in the position of the plant, because this is a reciprocal connection, I would not want to be forced to live when my natural cycle would be to die. I can imagine that for the plant in a lot of different ways, some of which I'm sure we can't comprehend or even understand at this point, either scientifically or in any other facet of prescription or pathology. I would imagine that there are a lot of ways that the plant is perceiving that are not particularly comfortable, if not distressing. And I'm not talking about this leaf stress that you're seeing. That's obviously from the combination of throwing it into a higher light intensity tent, along with the fact that, once again, not a great transplant on my part. But that's changing, like we talked about. And you can tell that by the fact that the new growth is looking lovely. Yeah, not particularly interested in forcing something to live just so that I can keep a terpene profile or a particular other plant expression that serves me particularly and does not serve the plant. And so then you might be thinking, the folks in here that have a room of dozens of moms, like, okay, then how do you keep the things that you like? Or how do you, if you have something medicinally, for example, that you really enjoy and maybe even need, how do you hone in on that? And the answer is genetics work. And by that I mean doing filial generation breeding. So doing inbreeding of the same progeny of the same two parents, and then doing that intentionally, looking at the type of traits you're looking for. So if it's an effect, if it's a trichome anatomy, if it's a stem structure, if you're trying to make like clothes or something, like all these sorts of things are things that you can work with the plant and work with the progeny of parents to figure out, and then keep in seed form, which not only allows for a much larger bank, so to say, of starting points that are the natural plant starting point for many different people to raise. They're also being raised in respect to their needs, in terms of their natural life cycle. So yeah, not really something I think we'll be doing from here on out, especially since part of this year's plans, which we'll get into further at some point, will be beginning to do some genetics work and some seed making, starting with making some F1s of unworked lines, which, whether you want to call that an F1, we can talk about that, as well as starting an F2 of whatever from the outdoor ends up being primarily pollen producing, as well as having a phenotype that's primarily flower producing or pollen accepting, whatever you'd like to call it. So real quick, once more, these are the two papayas. We've got the mystery that I think is Freshco Seedco Gorilla Conda. These two are the Merkas by Hoku, as well as this one over here. If I were to do the Merkas again, I really do think I'd do like Sea of Green style, plant a whole bunch of seeds, probably in that bed like I talked about. You'll see a couple of the Sourine crossed with Pomelo punches back here. Can't focus because I have two arms. And they're okay. They bounce back from the transplant bullshit, okay, but like they're not that vigorous, certainly not as vigorous as this friend. And to answer the question from earlier, from I think the first video, in terms of which of the Sourine crossed with Pomelo punches by Bloomseed Co., by the way, will we be taking a cut of? And the answer is none of them. Because if I want that profile again, I can hit up Bloom, I can hit up Hairy Palms and get something similar, and then begin to find the varieties and expressions that I want, and then work that. Yeah, I mean, I only had 3 seeds to begin with. And then once again, the niche, Aaron's cut, which, once again, can't remember the geneticist of. I'll put it in the... I can like remember what the logo looks like, but this person also bred Strawberry Milkshake, which is one of the parents of this. But yeah, so this has been flipped. Gonna do some transplant work with the other stuff, and then there will be some other clips that go along with this one. Yeah, just some ideas on how to keep things reciprocal and like how to keep everyone communicating and in as much control as possible. Everyone being myself, the plants, the other folks at the garden, the folks that the medicine goes to, the friends in the soil, all sorts of stuff. So, yeah. Love you all. Hope you have a beautiful week. We'll talk more about some of that other stuff, like the medicinal value for myself soon. And yeah, much love. So real quick on the way that we do pot sizing and transplanting for the cannabis. We'll often start them in these like 4 or 5 inch containers with the soil, just because our soil tends to get a bit more compacted with the water, which is, it's like not enough to create issues, but certainly enough to host fungus gnats. Sometimes I'll put them in these smaller ones, but then they'll get put in these ones real quick. Once they get to around this size, honestly, this size is a bit too big, we'll put them in these 1 gallon pots and try and get them deep in there, and then they'll end up going in their final pot lastly. Once again, the reason for this is just to allow the root zone, the rhizosphere, to be able to breathe appropriately and be able to stretch the way it likes in each of the different parts of life. Essentially what we're looking for upon transplant is for the root to comfortably be touching the bottom of its previous home. So yeah, it's just an easy way to do it with soil specifically. Much love. Hey, just wanting to show what trichomes look like on a cannabis seedling. You can tell that they look a bit different than when they're in flowering form. First of all, there's no bulbous head on the gland. It's just kind of the stalk. And you can also tell that they're all over the leaves and all over the stem, trying to keep certain bugs in such a way from the very, very delicate yet very delicious early vegetative material. You can even see some other trichome glands on the leaf itself. Pretty cool. But yeah, here's the transplant. Got them all in 1 gallons and they're looking nice. And then real quick, I did check in and have a good conversation with Aaron of Aaron's Cut. Yeah, we both kind of agreed that there'll just be a cut for Aaron each year, kind of like there's a cut for Harrison and Isabel each year, and how there will be a cut for Soleil each year. Hopefully for Jim as well. We'll see. There will be others too. We've got some planned, but yeah, we were able to make that decision together, such that the reciprocal connection between Aaron and the plant were respected as well. So yeah, this one's going to turn out nice. Much love.